Hi, this is Allan Handelman, and thanks for coming to my YouTube channel. I wanted to talk about Burton Cummings and the Guess Who for a lot of reasons. One of my favorite bands of all time, and they're very much in the news. You maybe have heard about what's going on. Let me just read from a recent Rolling Stone about Burton Cummings, and I'll tell you why I'm here to talk about it. Anyway, according to Rolling Stone, an article published this past April, Burton Cummings, a co founder of the Guess Who, canceled his performance license agreements for the band's songs that he wrote, including American Woman and These Eyes. This action removes copyright protections preventing the current Guess Who from performing the band's hits. I mean, that's what they're doing. Cummings has said that the band will be sued each time they perform a song that he wrote, and he's willing to do anything to stop the current band because they're taking Randy Bachman's, and it's really Bachman, but everybody says Bachman. They're taking Randy Bachman's and My Life Story and pretending it's theirs. Now, I understand how Burton feels. I'm going to take his side. I mean, I'm friends with Gary. I'm friends with Randy. I'm friends with Burton. But, even though the new Guess Who has some good stuff, it's not the Guess Who without Burton's voice. And it is good stuff. It could probably stand on its own, but would they sell that many tickets if people didn't expect to hear, the original singer? So anyway, I have some strong feelings on this, and I'm friends with all of them. And I'm probably going to get up with Burton to see if he wants to talk about it. But this litigation goes on; it's not over, and we're just going to have to see what happens. But the interview, I'm going to play part of an interview I did with him. This was right after 9/11. I don't know the exact date, but maybe just days after 9/11. So that vibe was in the air when we did the show. And I remember that night we took calls, as you'll hear, from all over the country. I actually got overseas calls too. And he was blown away with the love for the Guess Who. He knew he had a lot of fans, but as you'll hear, this was overwhelming because this was a special time. The Guess Who, Bachman left a long time ago. He left in what, 1970 or so? It was right after 9/11. They got back together to do a tour, a reunion tour, where everybody's there. The original band, just about, except maybe Jim Kale, who Randy is, both Randy and Burton are upset with Jim Kale because what he did as the bass player, when they were just trying to record songs and do the best they could, he kind of, I think secretly, copyrighted the name because nobody did that. The band just wrote music and they didn't care or they didn't think about it. So he copyrighted the name The Guess Who, started this other band with, Gary Peterson, the original drummer, is a part of, and that's what is going on now as they tour. Of course, they had to cancel a lot of shows because of this whole thing. So I want to let you hear some of this interview. I took out all the music to make it compliant with YouTube. It's over a 3-hour show, but it's cut down to a little over an hour. It's really good. And Burton here talks about starting off in the segment talking about the process of writing the songs and being in touch in this day and age of the internet.
I've since the internet came into being, I've been online a lot the last few years and come to know different people in chat rooms and different fan sites that I go to, and a lot of people have dissected our lyrics and really taken our songs to heart, very, very extremely. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of. As far as whatever our band has done, we've left some music around that could be perused and dissected and has been taken right to the soul in certain instances. I've had people write me letters and email me that some of our stuff and some of my stuff has brought them through some of the worst tragedies in their lives. If the music can possibly have any positive effect at this time, then that makes us feel very good. And we have done several concerts since September the 11th, And I think it's been very cathartic for the crowds. They're getting up and stomping and cheering, and I think it's healthy to have that release of energy right now, because these are very, very strange times.
Very strange times. And, a lot of times your lyrics actually confuse people. I mean, the time, for example, Share the Land, which is just a great song. I mean, it's a song I wish the Middle East would embrace and use. But, all of a sudden you had some fanatics, some people at radio stations, oh, it's about communism.
There were some people, actually, I think in the state of Texas, that said that it had communistic leanings, and it was a very red, quote-unquote, song, and it was banned in several stations throughout Texas. And it couldn't have been further from the truth.
That's
that
right.
song was just about eliminating prejudice and borders and arrogance and class structure to the point where we all had more equality. That's all it was. It was a very simple thought, but when it came out in 1970, there were political inferences read into it, that really weren't there at all.
We have a lot of people already on hold here. If you want to talk to Burton Cummings, call now at 800-ROCK-TALK, 800-762-5825. Another song, I don't know. The fans knew what it meant, I think. But American Woman, again, they said it was anti-American. It had nothing to do with that at all.
It really wasn't an anti-American song as much as a pro-Canadian song. And we had been touring on the strength of These Eyes and Laughing and Undone, which were our first three big songs that crashed through. They all charted very well, and they all got played like crazy on the radio. But they were kind of syrupy. They were good songs, but they were kind of syrupy love songs. American Woman, when we came back to Canada after touring the States so extensively, I looked out into the crowd one night, and the girls in Canada seemed not to grow up so fast as the ones in the States. They wore a little less makeup. They looked a little more colonial as such, a little more small-town feeling to the girls in general. And I remembered, because I was still very young. I was about 21 at that time, and I was going to places like Miami and Dallas and San Francisco and New York and Chicago, big cities that I had heard about in the movies and records but had never been to. And so my initial initial feeling about the States and some of the observations initially were the fact that I thought the girls grew up faster. They just were more streamlined at a younger age. So when the guy started jamming this riff one night, I just sang what came into my head, and I was thinking about the girls kind of being a little more my speed up in Canada, because I wasn't a fast track kind of guy, And instead of Canadian Woman, I love you, Canadian Woman, I prefer you, out of my mouth came American Woman, stay away from me. It really wasn't meant to be political at all. But along with the rhythm and the groove of the guitar lick, I started talking about war machines and ghetto scenes. And it was one of those moments, it was a stream of consciousness moment. I made all that up on the spot, and we never would have heard it again had there not been a kid bootlegging the show that night. And we eventually got a hold of that tape and listened to this thing about the American Woman. We thought it was kind of catchy. We loved the guitar riff of Randy's. So we decided to record it, and that was the happiest accident of our career.
All right, let's start taking calls. We're going to bounce back and forth around this incredible career with Burton Cummings and the Guess Who, because after the break, we'll come back and talk about the interesting conflict they had. On one hand, their albums, like I said in the introduction, their cuts were deserving of FM rock and roll radio. But because RCA wanted them to have hit after hit, since These Eyes was a huge hit, the first song on RCA, the first album, they were pushed in that direction. And I remember calling radio stations that were playing Zeppelin and The Doors. I said, why aren't you playing the Guess Who? And without even listening, a lot of these people would say to me, oh, they're top 40. And that was so unfair. And to this day, this is something that I've been trying to kind of make good. And we're going to talk about that. Let's take a quick, that's to me the way I observed your career. Here's your doing stuff like Humpty Blues and Friends of Mine and The Dropping Pin and Trucking Across the Sky and all this Pain Train for, God, what a great song. But yet this wouldn't get airplay. It was your hits.
That's very true. That's very true. Well, that's interesting. I'm very pleased and flattered that you have listened to us on that level.
Well, thank you. Let's take a call. Speaking of text, let's go to Houston. Our first call tonight, line 1. It's Richard. You're on with Burton Cummings.
Hey, Bert.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not bad. Did you make it through okay in New York?
Yeah, we managed to survive it, but it'll be something that we'll never forget. I'll tell you that. We were very close to the whole thing, WTC, about 30 blocks away in Times Square, so we were kind of glad to get out of there.
Well, I was glad to hear Gary's voice in Boston a couple days later and know that you guys were okay.
Yeah, we're fine. We're just hoping that the United States does the proper thing now, and I think it will.
Well, what I was wondering, obviously, we've talked a few times before, shall we say?
Yes.
The song I'm Scared was obviously written with the Cathedral of St. Thomas, or at the Cathedral of St. Thomas, and was wondering if in any way, shape, or form that song may have popped back into your head during the time while you were in New York, and what might be inspired from the unfortunate incidents that happened at the World Trade Center.
Well, I did go by the Cathedral of St. Thomas again, which is very close, actually, and the night of the bombings, that very night, the Tuesday night, I did go to the St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is that beautiful church right downtown. I think it's on 5th Avenue, and I lit a candle for the people. We were all just so overwhelmed, you know. New York has such beautiful structures, and there's a lot of spirituality in New York. Besides the madness and the craziness of a huge anthill, it still is a very spiritual, historic city. So there's a lot of vibe that comes from that to me, and I'll probably get around to writing something about this at some point, but I don't want to do it right now to force it. It'll happen naturally.
Right. Well, I just wanted to say I'm glad you guys made it through okay, and you had your diehard fans in Houston worried there for about 24 hours. But
we're all right now, man.
Hey, Richard, thanks for your call, man.
Thank you, Richard.
Now, later on tonight, I'm going to play a lot more of this song. It's called Friends of Mine. Very interesting story of this. This is a song that when I saw the Guess Who, right before Randy left, we were in the audience, everyone, like hundreds of people saying, play this song, Friends of Mine, Friends of Mine. They did it. And then I found out after the show, they did it as one of their encores, second encore. I went backstage, talked to Randy, and he said to me, I said, I thanked him for doing it. And he said, you know, we haven't done that song in years, and I never wanted to do it again. And I said, why? And he said, because of religious feelings I have. And then he told me he's doing one more show at the Fillmore, and he's leaving the band. So, Burton, my question to you is, first of all, do you remember that night at Concord College? It was the week American Woman became #1 in the country.
That would have been May of 70.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that they were not friendly times in the band.
Yeah, what was going on?
We were not the best of friends at the time, and we had the #1 record in the world, and it was kind of sad seeing Randy go, and yet we replaced him with two of our buddies from Winnipeg, and the band became, ironically, even bigger then for various reasons. I don't know why. I think at first we were taken as a kind of a syrupy band with no existential thoughts and not really much to say. And then as time went by, I think that image changed, because I remember the venues got bigger, the crowds got bigger, the fan club grew, and we were finally starting to get a little bit of FM acceptance. But for a long time, we were really shunned because we had hit singles. I think when that ideology changed a little bit was when Elton John came along and had all these hit records, one after the other, and suddenly it was fashionable to have hit singles. I think basically we had top 40 hit records before it became fashionable to do so. Nowadays, people would sell their soul for a hit record. You know, it's bizarre.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, why was it that song, because according to Randy, that was the first time in years that they would ever do that song. They only did it because we were, yelling, and we were a great audience. That was one. In fact, I got to tell you, and this is not because you're on, that was one of the best concerts, I would say, of all time. Right up there with AC/DC and a lot of other bands. I would say of the top 3 of my life. It was awesome.
Goodness gracious. Well, we knew Randy was leaving, and I think those last couple gigs we played, I think the last night we ever played together was the Fillmore East in New York, and that was an incredible gig. It was unfortunate for us that no one ever filmed it or videotaped it because it was an incredible gig. There were mixed emotions about a lot of things, and we knew it was Randy's last night. And so I think everybody turned everything up an extra notch because of that. It was just circumstantial and emotional, and there was a big party for us later at Sardi's in New York. And you can see pictures of us. I have seen photographs of us later years at that party after the show, and we don't even look like we are the least of friends at all. Very strange looks on our faces from that night.
Interesting. Yeah, thinking about those days and thinking about Randy leaving the show and leaving the band after we saw him, it was just an incredible experience. But that particular song, he said, was religious reasons. Is that part of the problem with why he left? Because
I think that had a lot to do with it. Randy had become a Mormon. He'd gotten married. He had one son, which is Tal Bachman, who has had a hit record since, actually. He had one child at the time. I think his wife was expecting another one. I was quite a party boy at that time, as was Jim Kale in the band at that time, and I think Randy just didn't. I think what happened, he and I enjoyed songwriting together so much, and then when our lifestyles became so diverse from each other, there was this huge chasm that we couldn't cross anymore to write songs and find common ground. And unfortunately, as with many marriages or friendships that go awry, that's what happened between Randy and the other three of us. And then for years later, that same thing happened. We had a lot of personnel changes in the band from 1970 to 1975, and yet I was always still there, and Gary Peterson was always still there. So he and I were really the kind of the anchor throughout all those years. I often wonder, and we've been asked many times too, what do we think would have happened had Randy not left at that time? And it's hard to say because we were on quite a roll at that time. It's hard to say, but it is very gratifying now, decades later. You know, American Woman was 31 years ago, and yet here we are drawing these crowds. We're out on the road with Joe Cocker, and we're drawing big crowds, and the songs have never gone away. That, to me, is a source of great pride, that we were able to cut some records that have meant so much that they've never really gone away.
And that tour is doing great. We're going to give away tickets and CDs later on, too, for several of the shows. You can check my website, alhandelman.com. We have the full schedule. Let's go to Susan in Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you for holding, Susan. It's the Allan Handelman Show. You're on with Burton Cummings.
Hi, Alan. Hi, Burton.
Hi, Susan.
Speaking of dissecting lyrics, Plus Signs is my absolute favorite of all your solos.
Oh, thank you very much.
And my question is whether the songs from Plus Signs were created during a very introspective period of your life, or if those songs accurately portray the real Burton Loren Cummings.
Well, those songs on Plus Signs, I think, combination of a couple of things. I was thinking a lot about the aging process, and I was also thinking about things I had read. I started becoming aware of Stephen Hawking, the physicist, who has really, many people say, has resumed Einstein's work where Einstein left off. I read a lot about Stephen Hawking and his theories about the universe and time and black holes and time travel and relativity, and a lot of existential thoughts coupled with those scientific facts really were the breeding ground for all the lyrics on that Plus Signs album. And I did all that writing within about a 10 or 12 day period. I wrote all those songs within 2 weeks. So it was a fact of just keeping a guitar around my neck or sitting at the piano for most of the time of that 2 weeks, and then I found myself with enough songs to do an album. And I think there's definitely a thread there throughout that material because it was all written in one burst, you know.
It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much.
Very upbeat and very uplifting.
Susan, I appreciate your call.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you, Susan.
Burton Cummings, our special guest tonight. Phones are ringing off the hook. Don't give up. 1-800-ROCK-TALK. Let's go to Canada real quick. And it's Sandra. Welcome to the Allan Handelman Show in Toronto. Hello, Sandra.
Hello.
You're on with Burton Cummings.
Gentlemen.
Hello.
My question for the evening was...
I'll repeat it if you can't hear it, Burton. Go
I
ahead.
can hear.
Go ahead, Sandra.
Sorry. Both your songs and Randy's songs have been very lyrical, which is quite unusual for the genre that you're in. And I was wondering if the two of you, either individually or together, have thought about writing a musical.
It's really been done enough times, you know. I thought about it back in 1969 when I first heard about Tommy and what Pete Townsend had done, and I actually wrote a musical which was in the style of Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, with a lot of spoken lines as well as music, and it would have involved about 8 characters, most of which I would have played myself on the record. But now, at this point, I don't foresee us doing that because it's just been done so many times. It's been done to death, and I don't know what we could bring to that genre that would be new, to tell you the truth. But we will be writing songs for a new Guess Who album, that's for sure.
Oh, that's great news, man. That's great. Sandra, thanks a lot for calling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Burton Cummings is with us. Keep the calls coming at 800-ROCK-TALK, 800-762-5825. Let's go to, where are we going to? Dayton, Ohio. Right there. Welcome to the show. It's Daniel.
How are you doing, guys?
Hi, Daniel.
Hey, I actually have a question sort of loosely related to Sandra's, actually. It seems like, Burton, so many of your songs have appeared in movies over the years. And I'm wondering, first of all, sort of a 3-part question. Do you know how many movies you guys have appeared in?
The songs, I think about 5 or 6 so far.
Which ones, man? I know there's a lot of them, but I can't think of all of them off the top of my head.
Well, American Woman has been in Cable Guy, American Beauty, and The Spy Who Shagged Me. Undone was featured in Jackie Brown.
That's the one, yeah.
A great scene with Robert De Niro beating up Bridget Fonda, and her record player is playing an old vinyl Guess Who album, and Undone plays. Also, These Eyes was used very, very briefly in a movie called Then and Now with Demi Moore, and Albert Flasher was used in Almost Famous. The scene where the young Cameron Crowe is banging on the hotel room door to get into the party, and the band won't let him in, but out of the room he hears blasting Albert Flasher on a stereo. So those are 6 that I can think of off the top of my head.
Cool.
There may have been a couple more, actually. We've been very lucky in that regard.
If you watch E! Entertainment, especially before the attack, they were playing a promo for a new show on ABC, and they're using American Woman, your version.
Unbelievable. That's right. I heard about that. I don't think our version is going to be the theme song, but they're using it as the promo.
As the promo,
yeah,
and it's awesome.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It seems to me like many artists will get the same song out there so many times, but your music seems to come out with different songs in different movies and different commercials. Why do you think Hollywood is so attached to your music?
Well, I think there's quite a diversified body of work. When it comes to the Guess Who catalog, the Guess Who batch of songs, it's not just one style, and I think it can suit many different things. We really did, for a long, long time, turn down unbelievably lucrative offers for commercials, and I think that gave the songs more validity through the years. Now that it's three decades or so later, they have been used a couple times. One was a Gatorade commercial, which I kind of gave the okay on because I liked what they did. They were showing people like Michael Jordan and some of the girls from WNBA, and they were sweating out the colors of the Gatorade. And I thought it was kind of a cool deal. And I drink Gatorade myself, so I didn't mind that so much, you know. I still my favorite use of songs is in the movies, because when they can become part of a major soundtrack, that's a really nice pat on the back for those that wrote the tune. I'm especially proud of American Woman being in American Beauty when Kevin Spacey gets into the car and pushes the cassette machine in and lights up a big joint, and on comes American Woman. He starts singing along with me for about a minute and a half, and that was an Oscar-winning performance by him. So it was really very flattering and kind of a personal little internal thrill when I went to see that, and I saw that thing unfold.
Oh, man, talk about getting goosebumps. You must have got off when you saw that.
I was a foot off the seat.
That's awesome, yeah. That's so cool. Hey, anything else, Daniel?
Burton, your music's touched our lives in so many different ways, from happy moments to sad moments. Thanks for everything you do, and Allan for always bringing the great guests.
Hey,
really
man, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Okay,
Thank you very much, man. Thanks.
800 Rock Talk, 800-762-5825. This was used for a commercial, too. Let's play a few seconds of this. This is one of their many hits. Believe it or not, it was used for a car wax commercial. Remember that?
Wow, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it was like... Yeah, they used it for a car wax, some rain dance car wax.
Don't even remember that one.
Wow,
that
man.
Not by me before I was controlling the copyright.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. But that's one of my favorite Guess Who songs, one of our favorite records, because it was so different from everything else we ever did.
Yeah, and it shows your vocal range. You have the ability to scream with passion and such emotion at an incredible loud volume, but yet pleasant, and instantly get down to a soft, just beautiful sound, and then go right back up into screaming. You do it all like at the end of Laughing, at the end of Guess Who.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you scream. I couldn't believe you'd have that much control of your voice.
Well, I've always listened to singers from the time I was very, very small, and I was always in love with really great singers. I was always impressed by people that had control and good pitch. It's always meant a lot to me. I always tried to be better all the time. I'm still trying to get better, still trying to be a better player too. But I do have, as far as being influenced by great singers, I was influenced by some of the best that ever were: Sam Cooke and Bobby Darin and Marvin Gaye and Elvis, of course, early Elvis, and Little Richard and Dion DiMucci, one of the great singers of all time.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I feel very lucky, and Robert Plant too, and
That's right, because you played with Zeppelin. Listen, we're up for a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the Doors, and I know you love Jim Morrison. And
Absolutely.
Friends of Mine, that song we're sampling. When I saw you in concert the first time, you look like Jim Morrison.
Oh,
you
goodness.
sounded like Jim Morrison, and you got to spend the night and party with him, and we'll talk about that.
yes.
All right, don't touch that dial.
We are now taking calls at 1-800-ROCK-TALK, toll-free. Please shut off your radio before going on the air. This will avoid confusion with our delay.
But very, very seldom does a song that I guess was a little bit political, wasn't meant to be, but it was perceived politically. Very, very seldom does a song in that genre resurface decades later, because most times it wouldn't be relevant. It would sound silly. Whereas a love song in 1940 is the same thing as a love song in 1980.
Right.
But you know what I mean? The fact that Lenny came back with American Woman, and it was a monstrous hit for him all over the world, he never changed one lyric. If a lot of people, I guess, maybe they haven't even thought about that, but not one word was changed.
Nope.
And yet, 31 years later, that song went right to the top. It was almost bigger by Lenny Kravitz than it was by us first time around. It charted, I believe, the last count I heard, Lenny's version charted in 27 countries around the world. That's a pretty monstrous hit record. So I'm still a bit at a loss for all of that. I'm just thankful that Mike Myers had chosen to use that in the movie Spy Who Shagged Me, that Madonna and he had decided between them, because it was her label Maverick that put out the soundtrack, that he and Madonna between them chose Lenny Kravitz to recut it. He told me this himself, he just did a very threadbare, cut down, almost demo-esque version of it. And they liked it. They left it the way it was because they liked the bareness of it, the rawness of it. It became the biggest hit of Lenny's career, which is irony in itself, because I've liked Lenny ever since Mr. Cab Driver and Let Love Rule, you know, right from the beginning. And he wrote all those songs himself. Are You Gonna Go My Way and Mama Said and the new one again, and all these big records he's had through the years. He's been the writer. He's even written for other artists. The irony here is that the biggest record of Lenny Kravitz's career now, singly, is American Woman, the only one he didn't write. It's our tune.
You know, before you mention certain concerts you did, you wish you had on tape, there was a concert with Frank Zappa, The Doors, Led Zeppelin, The Byrds, Alice Cooper, Bo Diddley, the Vanilla Fudge, the Guess Who, and I'm probably leaving out some. And
you mean the Seattle Pop?
Yeah, and it was that night. I'm going to play a little bit more of Friends of Mine because I want you to get into the whole Morrison thing. But again, as we play this, listen to the difference and listen to Burton and see if this doesn't remind you a little bit of the great.
Patent on it or a copyright on it, but seeing as how I was the next guy to do that, I guess, in the wake of Jim, because we cut Wheatfield Soul in '68, which meant they had been around about a year and a half, plenty of time for their first two albums to influence me, and particularly Strange Days influenced me. It's still one of my favorite albums of theirs, but I am a huge Doors student/fanatic, so my favorite Doors album changes from year to year, but Strange Days was the one that really got me into the Doors, and it came out about '68, and that was the same year, music, when the music's over, really changed me forever. And that was the same year Friends of Mine was written, I guess, and recorded. So, of course, I was heavily influenced by Jim. I never made any bones about that, but I wasn't trying to be the next
No, I know
Morrison.
that. I know that. It was a tribute.
I just thought it was kind of cool to that he didn't have any patent or copyright on spoken word and rock and roll,
Yeah,
and I did it because I felt it at the time. I was, I guess, still very easily influenced. I was about 21 at the time, and I guess it is blatantly in the style of Jim, but I wasn't trying to copy him.
No, you weren't. Of course, and it really grabs you. It showed the diversity of this band that could sing These Eyes. You barely could play piano, but I couldn't tell that until I read it.
I'm still in a state of flux about the cut Friends of Mine, because certain times I really love it. I'll put it on and it's fine. And other times I'll put it on and certain things about it really embarrass me.
You got to be in the mood. That's true, and I understand why you're saying that, but when you're in the mood for it, it's awesome. It may not be like...
Just let yourself go and try and remember what 68 and 69 were like. It's not a bad cut.
Not at all, man. Let's go back to the phone. Burton Cummings is with us. Let's go to Mark on line 2, calling in from Cleveland, Ohio. Mark, welcome to the Allan Handelman Show.
Hi, Allan, and hello, Burton.
Speak up nice and loud, man.
I'm fine. I'm here in Cleveland. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Gund Arena.
Excellent.
I have a comment, a question, and a request, a heartfelt request. First, my comment, I was privileged to be a participant in the tribute CD from the fans, and I got to do a cover of Glamour Boy.
Oh, goodness. You know what? I have the disc, and I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet.
It was just a wonderful project. It's dedicated to a fan of yours who passed away in the fall, and we just loved him and the contributions he's made to the other fans, and so it was really a moving experience to be able to do that, and I chose Glamour Boy, which leads me into my question for you. I redid Glamour Boy, trying to make it my own. And I was wondering, when you write a song like that, or a song like Sour Sweet, how do you know when the song is finished?
I honestly don't know. When it comes to songs about songwriting, I'm always in the dark. I've never found it a belabored process because I don't work on something long enough to get frustrated. I've never worked more than a couple of hours on a song, really. And if I find myself keeping a song around for weeks or days or months, then most times it'll never see the light of day. Other humans will never hear it. I just have a feeling. I get thoughts. A lot of times it's titles. A lot of times I'll get a title in my head, and then that will dictate what the song is. I don't know why, but really I've never been able to explain songwriting process, although I do think I'm more of a my lyrics are steeped more in reality than a lot of people's are. They're not as much fantasy. I write about things I see when I look around and when I travel, and people and the way people have affected me. So I think maybe there's a little less fantasy in my words and a little more reality sometimes, and that's why people identify with them and dissect them so much. But I'm not trying to sound like Shakespeare here at all. You know, I really don't work very hard at the songwriting, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, Burton, I was about 13 or 14 years old in Syracuse, New York. I went to a show, and you said something that encouraged me. I went into music and made it a career, and as you were saying, you were a Jim Morrison student/fan. I'm a Burton Cummings student/fan of yours, and I just am fascinated by, everyone talks about your voice and the richness, and it's the voice, but you are one hell of a songwriter.
Thank you very much.
And you really have influenced me. And this leads me into my heartfelt request. With the recent occurrences here in the United States and how it's affecting all the world, I'm wondering if it's even possible or feasible that you could add Stand Tall to your set list.
We were talking about that at the beginning.
Yeah, wow,
we need that. We need that song, man.
It's a pretty powerful one for down times, and the band has learned it. I've never really thought of it. To be honest, I've never thought of adding it specifically since this tragedy, but it might actually be appropriate.
Listen,
although it was written about an emotional love affair, but the refrain about standing tall and silly human pride, it could be pertinent. I guess you're right. I would have to see what the other guys thought. We would never want to look as though we were grandstanding. I mean, I think that's the worst possible.
Right, or trying to make a profit on it.
Most embarrassing and most pathetic way you can go in times like this. Yet there's a fine line between grandstanding and wanting to actually refer specifically to what has happened. We do talk about a little bit about it on stage, but for the most part, we're doing exactly the same show that we did before the tragedy on the 11th.
Hey, Mark, great question. We got to move on. Thanks for calling, man.
Thank you so much, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
800 Rock Talk, 800-762-5825. Going into this break, we'll play this in its entirety in the third hour. Burton's coming back to second hour. Keep the calls coming. This is one of the most incredibly beautiful songs I've ever had in my collection, called Sour Sweet from So Long Bannatyne. You can also get it on their box set. Let me let you listen to a little bit of it. Keep calling 800 Rock Talk, 800-762-5825 for Burton Cummings.
Don't wanna listen to no sugar to ride with me.
It is the Allan Handelman Show. Welcome back. Hour number 2 with one of the greatest singers of all time, my favorite rock and roll singer of all time. And I don't say that often with all the bands I've had on. It's Burton Cummings, the Guess Who. And we're taking your calls at 1-800-ROCK-TALK. Hey, by the way, this goes back, we had Norm Macdonald on the show a few months back, about a year ago, and this is part of the conversation. One of the things when I think of Canada is one of my favorite bands of all time, and that's the Guess Who.
Oh, yeah, you know that?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I've never, actually, I did meet them. Never had Burton Cummings on my show, but I tell you, man, I love the Guess Who. Are you familiar with their music?
Oh, yeah.
American Woman.
Yeah.
And Burton Cummings also did a solo career after that. I don't know if he's still.
Yeah, Stand Tall.
Stand Tall, that's right.
Right, man. That those down moments that get you up. Well,
and
yeah.
Another great one that's Running with a Gun, and it isn't any fun as a fugitive. Remember that?
Yeah. Guns.
Break it to them gently.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So you're a Guess Who fan.
Yeah.
Oh, that is great because in fact, I'm reading a book about the Guess Who, and I want to have them on the show. I've had pretty much every band A to Z that I've ever wanted to interview over the years, but there's a band that is on my list. All right, well, I don't want to. We'll talk about. I mean, maybe great. Maybe I'll get Burton Cummings on, have you as a surprise call.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to talk to that dude.
You got it, man. Best voice in rock and roll. Anyway, back to the new show, the Norm Show.
Well,
did ABC pick it up for next season?
That's kind of nice to hear, Alan. I didn't know that Norm was such a fan.
Yeah, man.
That's cool. He started quoting "Break It to Them Gently."
Yeah, and he would have went on and on. In fact, I tried to call him, but couldn't get up with him in time. But I know he wanted to talk to you. Because even after that,
well, that's terrific. Nice to know the songs are getting out there to people.
You got it, man. Let's go to the calls. Let's go to. I guess we're going back to Canada. It's Fred on line 2, or is it Teresa in New Jersey? I think Teresa actually is next to New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Teresa.
Hi, Burton. My question was, since the tragic events here on the East Coast, I just wanted to know if you were planning on coming back to New Jersey for the canceled show at the PNC.
Yeah, we're trying to make that date up. We're also trying to get back to New York City, but everything is in such chaos now as far as rebooking anything around that part of the country, because of so many things having been canceled. I would personally love to come back to New York City and do the Beacon, that smaller theater, for 2 or 3 nights. And we'll definitely make up the show in New Jersey because I was looking forward to coming back there. We played there quite frequently in the very early days of the success in the States. Around These Eyes time, we played a lot in New York and New Jersey, so I kind of...
I was only 6 then.
I was sorry when those things happened that we lost any dates at all. But, yeah, we'll be coming back to make those up.
Okay, and I just wanted to say, I saw you last month at Syracuse, New York.
Yes.
And your voice is so refined, and I'm so happy I got to see you in concert.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Teresa.
Hey, now, see, she's talking about just a month ago, and she's figuring I'm still sounding like the record.
Yeah.
So that's been one of my goals since I was a 13-year-old kid in my first band.
No better than the record.
I guess one of my goals always was, I would quit if I couldn't go out and sound like the record. So
that's great.
If that's only a month ago, I'm thrilled and flattered that you're saying that. So then I know that one of my accomplishments has come true.
I traveled 6.5 hours to go see that, and it's worth 3 times the travel.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
My hat size is going up now with these compliments, so you better stop.
All right, Teresa, thanks for calling.
Thank you very much.
It is the Allan Handelman Show with Burton Cummings. Keep the calls coming. The phones are incredibly busy. Keep trying. 800-762-5825. Let's go to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Mike on line 3. You're on with Burton Cummings.
Hello, Burton and Alan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
How are you, man?
Fine, thank you. I just wanted to make a quick comment and then a question. And, Burton, I can't say that I saw you just a month ago, but I did see you in October 1970 when you were performing in Charlottesville, Virginia. And after your show, you came by the radio station party at my house. And I don't know if you remember that.
Goodness gracious!
A lot of partying in those days. It's hard to remember.
Now, was it? Did it have? Oh my goodness!
Well, let me tell you something that might help you remember. It was a party in Charlottesville, Virginia, October 70, after the show, and when you came by the house, I just happened to play of a dropping pin at the party, and you mentioned to me that, and the rest of the band, you told them that you were very surprised that we played dropping pin at the party because it didn't get a lot of airplay in America.
Well, my goodness, something vague might be. Geez, that's unbelievable. That is 31 years ago. I seem to recall going to a party in that part of the country, but it's a little vague as to exactly that night. But I'm very flattered that you liked of a Dropping Pin.
Well,
that was kind of a semi-hit record in Canada.
Yes.
But it didn't really happen down here. And some of those lyrics were actually, the title was fed to me by an old high school buddy of mine, and he said, all that one can hear is the sound of a dropping pin, and I always thought that was a cool thing.
Well, one question just to go with that, and as I said, we had a great time. You were with us a couple of hours, and a great time there at the radio station party. But back then in those days, my question is, when the decisions were being made about what songs would be released as a single and what songs would stay on the album, back then with RCA and all, was that a decision with the band and the record company, or how were those decisions made back then?
It was purely the record company, really. They had the last say as to what would be the singles, and that was stipulated right in the contract that we signed. So there was no gray area about that. You know, we were really in the hands of the corporation. But all we tried to do was cut so many different types of music that eventually something would be heard, and then something else of a different style would be heard, and hopefully by then, we would gain enough freedom to do whatever we wanted. It was really at that point anyway, for us in our career, we were pretty well being told what to do by RCA.
Well, I understand, and I've been a fan of the band, and I know this goes back really kind of maybe early for you, but when Shakin' All Over came out and was a big hit in the States in July of '65, I fell in love with the single. I've got it still. I've got your albums, and then of course later when you all started hitting with all the big RCA hits, we really enjoyed hearing you down here in America.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very sweet. My goodness. I'm telling you, Alan, I'm going to have to get a bigger hat size.
No, man. Hey,
awful lot of praise here.
Well, you are modest, and, I understand you're uncomfortable hearing this, but this is from the heart. There's no hype here. Certainly, in this day and age, when you hear this, and we're doing a show a week after that tragedy, that disaster, listen to that passion, Burton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real. Hey, thanks for your call, man.
Well, great to talk to you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you heard the beginning of the show, and you probably heard in the news that Burton Cummings is suing the Guess Who, the new band calling themselves the Guess Who. And they're good. I've had them on the show. Gary Peterson, the original drummer, is in that band. Burton Cummings not, but, he got so sick and tired of this band touring and fans saying, listen, it just doesn't sound the same. And I'm kind of in that camp. They sound good, the new band, but Burton's voice, Anyway, so this is the first interview I did with Burton Cummings. I don't know if it was before I had a face-to-face kind of a little session we did backstage one time. But I was really curious about the recording of the second big Guess Who album on RCA. It never really sounded good, and so I wanted to kind of get the inside story. What was the deal with that second album? I couldn't get enough high end. I was always putting my treble up because, if he put on a Doors song on Elektra, there was a lot of high end. It was crisp and clean, and I wanted to hear everything clean. RCA had really, in some cases, terrible sound. Their studio pretty much sucked, didn't it?
We cut Wheatfield Soul in A&R Studios, which was a fabulous studio.
That sounded great. Canned wheat.
Then canned wheat sounded like it was done through a couple of sticks of dentine. It sounded like it was coming through flannel or socks or something. And that was because they forced us to use their studios. That was another thing in this ironclad contract. In those days, we had really very little control over our fate. And they forced us to do canned wheat at that awful, antiquated RCA studio, which is no longer there in New York City. But, people like Glenn Miller had recorded there, in the Second World War.
It wasn't built for rock and roll.
So it certainly wasn't built for what we were doing, and you can tell on canned wheat that we went back to A&R and did Laughing and Undone for a quick single and a B-side. Then the rest of the album was done at RCA's old studio. And if you get one of the original pressings and listen, Laughing and Undone sound quite good, and the rest of that album sounds like it's coming through cardboard.
Yep,
it was
absolutely.
really a shame.
Yeah,
but fortunately for us, it was also the last time we had to record there. We did the American Woman album and a lot of subsequent stuff in Chicago, and it was much better at that place.
Now, we got great news. Those early albums, Canned Wheat, I don't know about Wheatfield Soul. That's a hard CD to get. I had to really work to get that one. But Buddha Records somehow got their hands on the master tapes. They remastered everything. You can get Canned Wheat, American Woman, the Share of the Land album, and I think the Live at the Paramount. Digitally remastered, and Burton, cut by cut, in the liner notes, tells you the behind-the-scenes story. And they added songs that they didn't have room for on the original vinyl. Great stuff.
There's a very good version of Hand Me Down World on the Paramount reissue. On Live at the Paramount now with bonus tracks, I think there's a Sour Sweet and a Hand Me Down World and a couple others actually that didn't make the original Live at the Paramount, because as you just said, you could get about 23 minutes per side on vinyl, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then you couldn't cram any more in because of the width of the grooves on the record. Now you can get two full hours on one disc.
Yeah, that's true. One of the things, so many things on my mind. Let's just go to the calls. Wow, what line is that? Line 3? Yep. Well, let's go there first. This guy must be listening on the internet. Let's go to Amsterdam, Holland, line 3 for Burton Cummings. Holland, hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. For me, it's good morning. Good evening to you.
It's good morning for you. So you're in Amsterdam.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning over here.
My goodness, nice to talk to you.
Thank you. I have a question for. Oh, by the way, your name Handelman. Does that mean there are any Dutch roots?
I don't think so, but maybe. I don't know.
Maybe a long way back, Alan.
Yeah,
It looks that way. I have a question for Burton.
Sure.
Yes.
What are the chances on a European tour after the one that's going on at the moment?
Well, it's looking better all the time. We're thinking of Australia as well. I would love to get back and play. We didn't play Europe all that much in the old days. We did 2 or 3 different tours, and that was about it. But we did make several trips to Amsterdam way back in the 70s. I would love to come back and play over there.
Yeah, but what does that depend on?
Depends on, I guess, how well the rest of these dates are going in the States, and they're going very well, so it looks good so far. And how good BMG International will be at resurfacing all the stores with the CDs. But I think that's going on right now internationally, so it's looking better all the time. I hope we come back there next spring, maybe.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. And lots of success.
Thanks a million.
Hey, good talking to you, man. Ben in Amsterdam, Holland. First call we ever got from Holland. When we had Frank Zappa on before he died, we got calls from all over the world, and this is before the internet really got kicking. But, see, what does that tell you?
Well, it's very flattering at this age, for sure, to be... I don't know. It's kind of like being given back your golden days without you expecting. We didn't see this coming. We didn't see this unbelievable resurgence coming, and I think it's almost sweeter this time around because we're old enough to appreciate this. What's happening?
All right. Will you stay with us? We got so many calls coming. You feel like staying a little longer?
Yeah, I'll stay a little longer. Sure.
All right, man. Let's take a break.
This is the Allan Handelman Show. Compelling talk radio.
Attention musicians listening to the Allan Handelman Show. You know, it's a crime the way some so-called music superstores treat their customers. Scripted sales pitches, cookie-cutter answers, no one to help you. Good choices require reliable advice. Good business demands reliable service. At ReliableMusic.com, we're not a music superstore. We're just a super music store. We understand your music equipment needs. Our staff is made up of music industry pros. We use and know about the gear we sell. Whether you're looking for the latest in pro audio and recording gear, or a great selection of guitars, keyboards, drums, lighting, and accessories, ReliableMusic.com has it all. Plus, the expert advice and service you deserve. At ReliableMusic.com, practical product knowledge and customer service are not just slogans. They're how we do business. Call us toll-free at 1-888-888-4515 or find us online at ReliableMusic.com. Experience the reliable difference today. ReliableMusic.com for the tools of your trade.
No Time, Hand Me Down World, No Sugar Tonight, Rain Dance, Albert Flasher, Guns, Guns, Guns. In fact, this wasn't a hit, and I couldn't believe it. RCA put out one of the box sets, but they didn't even put this song on it. We'll play it in its entirety during the third hour, but let me give you a little sample. This was from So Long Bannatyne. This is an incredible song, kind of a lost classic from the Guess Who. And then it gets into this cool little guitar thing, but again, wasn't even on the RCA box set. Wonder why, Burton?
I don't know. There's been so much personnel change at RCA. They really only concentrate on Elvis Presley. They keep repackaging and re-releasing the same 200 cuts by Elvis, and it's already silly. But we've done, I think we did 15 studio albums in all for BMG RCA. And there's still some stuff in the vaults that has never come out. I will say this, I am very happy with the remastering, the Buddha stuff, the 4 that have gone by so far. Particularly the Live on the Paramount thing, because there's a bunch of bonus cuts that on the new re-release of Live at the Paramount, there's about 4 bonus cuts that weren't really released on the original vinyl record. So it's nice that somebody is getting around to this finally. I think of some of the other acts on RCA, like the Youngbloods and stuff. They had some great records, and you still can't get most of that stuff. So it's kind of it's tough with RCA.
Yeah, the good answer. Nothing else needs to be said. We've had so many bands on it got screwed over. But what I want to tell you about VH1. Bill Flanagan, vice president of VH1, is a frequent guest here. He also is a musicologist, wrote a lot of books. And during the first time he was on, I said, he's responsible for Behind the Music. And I said, well, how come you guys haven't done a Behind the Music about the Guess Who? And Bill says, Alan, you're right. They were incredible. We started talking about that, and I'm not going to be surprised if you don't get a knock on the door pretty soon from VH1. What a great story. The whole
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'd love to do that. Yeah.
What a story.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go back to the remaining calls here. We got them to the bottom of the hour. Let's go. Well, we were talking about Greensboro, North Carolina, line 1. Let's go there right now. Welcome to the show. It's who is this?
This is Ron.
Hey, Ron. Good to have you, man.
How you doing tonight?
Hi, Ron.
Just had a question. A song I don't think it's really huge on radio airplay, Clap for the Wolfman. I was just curious how you came up with that unusual collaboration.
Well, it was originally about a CB handle, a trucker handle called Napoleon, and these guys, Billy and Kurt in the band, Kurt Winter and Bill Wallace, had this song about Clap for Napoleon. Right. There was a big country record that crossed over called Convoy way back. And so the big CB craze, the walkie-talkie CB craze hit pretty big for a while, and everybody's talking about handles and stuff. And they had this song about Clap for Napoleon, and I guess it was okay, but I thought it could have been just a little broader reach. And it was just a goofy novelty thing, and we had just done the Midnight Special for about the 5th time. So I said, why don't we make this about the Wolfman and make it Clap for the Wolfman, and then I'll imitate the Wolfman between lines. So we decided, okay, right, I rewrote the words and some of the melody. Then it became Clap for the Wolfman, and then I was imitating Wolf between lines on the record. We were finishing it up in Toronto one night. He happened to be in Toronto hosting one of these hot rod car shows on the weekend. Huh. We explained the situation to him. he came into the studio and stayed all night and did it and had a blast. And so it ended up being a bit of luck that we had him there, and we were good friends before that.
Yeah.
It all seemed very natural to us.
All right, Ron, thanks for your call, man.
All right, well, I just have one other quick question.
Sure, go ahead, real quick.
On the song No Sugar Tonight, is something that's puzzled me for years is you call out a name. I'm not sure if it's Jacob, something to that name.
Jocko.
Jocko.
Jocko. He was a bass player in a group called the Rifkin, and they were also known as Buckstone Hardware, and they were two bands from Toronto, actually the same band with two different names, from Toronto, Ontario, circa 1968, and I was friends with them. They all lived in one house. I used to go and hang out, stay up all night with them, and Jocko was their bass player, and that was just a neat name at the time. This was way before Michael Jackson.
A bag of goodies and a bottle of wine. We're going to do it up right tonight.
Absolutely.
What a party.
And we did.
Yeah, I know you did. So did I. I got to tell you something. Just think of, everyone listen, just think of all the things you did for the first time.
Oh, my.
With this band.
Yeah.
Come on. That's living, especially back then. All right, Ron, thanks a lot, man.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you, Ron.
800 Rock Talk, 800-762-5825. Let's go back to Canada. We'll squeeze on as many calls because we got to let Burton go in the bottom of the hour. Fred, welcome to the show. You're on with Burton Cummings.
Hey, Burton, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Fred in Chatham.
Hi.
I'm going to see you in Toledo in 2 days if we can get across that border.
Excellent. Well, I hope so.
2 questions for you. When you guys started the reunion, you said it was a 3-year plan. Is that still a 3-year plan, or are you going to keep
Hard
it going?
to say. I had no idea. I know that there are a lot of offers for next year for us to tour America and possibly Australia. So I have a feeling what we'd like to do most is finish this tour now in the middle of November. This tour will be over in the middle of November. Catch our breath for a month or so through Christmas and New Year's, and then hopefully go into the studio and put down this stuff. Randy and I have been writing new songs. There's no sense getting together and playing like crazy for 2.5 years. It will be, a couple of years now soon, without going in and trying something new. So I think that's what we will do. We'll go into the studio, do a new album of brand new stuff that Randy and I have in early 2002, and then put that out and see what happens from there. This could be a 5 or 10 year thing. We don't know.
Yeah, man. Again, don't hesitate on that hard edge stuff, man, because that's a part of the Guess Who.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that. I believe that it should be well rounded. It should have a lot of everything.
And second question. This might be a touchy subject, but we all know that there was a Guess Who band touring around for a number of years.
Yeah.
And how much of an effect did that have on your plans for the U.S., or do you think it had any effect whatsoever on, let's say, the casual fan?
Well, I mean, it was disgusting what Jim Kale did. He should be ashamed to look into the mirror.
What did he do?
He went and copyrighted the name Guess Who, and then just took different guys out all the time and called it the Guess Who, and then they used our records to promote this bogus band.
Oh, on the radio, yeah.
He's ashamed of himself. That's the unforgivable sin in pop music, and we've seen it happen with a lot of groups, but I never thought that our band would fall to those depths. But I don't know. I guess we all get what we deserve in life because Jim is not part of this resurgence now. So he can stay at home and do whatever he wants. I make no bones about it that I'm no friend of his.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just a quick question. I read on the internet when it was announced you guys were getting back together, something Randy wrote that said, it's a rumor, it'll never happen. Is that true, or was that some internet lie?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Right.
We didn't foresee this coming. We really didn't. We played at the Pan American Games closing night 2 years ago, and that's really what started this all snowballing.
God, this is so cool. Listen, we're gonna rush off, Fred. We're gonna move on. Let's squeeze on one more call.
Thank you.
All right. Everyone's being so polite, but we could go all night with Burton here. But let's take Tom, maybe the last call in Arizona. Welcome to the Allan Handelman Show, Tom.
Hey, thanks a lot. Hey, Burton.
Hello.
Hey, this is one of the other internet crazies out here who have been calling in all night, I believe, to you.
Uh-huh.
But, I know one time you'd post a lot of a lot of bands and singers who had influences on you and the songs, and I was just curious to find out what your favorite male and female vocalists are now and why.
You mean modern stuff?
No, it could be
or all time.
Of all time.
All time. Gosh, I would have to name a few. My favorite singers. One of my favorite singers ever was Sam Cooke. I thought he was touched by God the way he sang. I loved Dion DiMucci and Bobby Darin very, very much. Huge fan of Little Richard in the early days. Huge fan of early Elvis Presley, about the first 4 or 5 albums. Big Jim Morrison fan. Loved the way he sang. Everybody thought he was just a screamer, but he was a really brilliant singer. I like John Lennon singing very, very much.
Robert Plant.
Robert Plant was a huge influence on me. I liked very much John Sebastian from The Lovin' Spoonful. I thought he was brilliant, writer and singer. He wrote very well for his own voice, and that's something that I've tried to do, is write for my own voice.
All right, that's it, Tom. Thank you for calling, man. Thanks for listening down in Scottsdale, Arizona.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tom.
But before I let you go, we're going to play No Time right now in its entirety. In its entirety, because it still gives me goosebumps. And affiliates, we're going to be a few minutes late on this break. But give it an introduction, Burton, as we say goodbye to you.
I think No Time really changed things for the Guess Who in a positive way. I think once No Time was released, we were finally taken seriously as a rock and roll band. Up until then, the songs were good, but they were soft, and they were a little syrupy. And No Time was truly a guitar song. It was a rock and roll record for a change, a straight-ahead rock and roll record. And I think at that point, things began to change, and we began to be taken seriously as a band for the first time in our career.
Turn it up, listen to the words. And Burton, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you, Alan. It's my pleasure. Thanks, everybody out there, for taking the time to phone in, and may you all walk with the good spirit.